Hey, what is up YouTube? This is PowerLC with another one of my videos, and today I decided to do a bit of a bonus video, so not any reviews, lists, or anything like that. Instead, I wanted to react to a video that I ran across to not too long ago, which is funny because this video is about a year or two old, and it's Shad's look at Soul Calibur 6. Now, Soul Calibur 6 is a game, well, I should preface this first is I have a lot of respect for Shad and his content. I'm subscribed to his main channel, and I really enjoy his look at different weapons. Those are definitely my favorite, like the Back to Corbin video and a bunch of the different weapons that he's looked at, medieval weapons he's looked at. So this is not an attack on him, and honestly, I have a lot of respect for him, and I enjoy him as a content creator. But this video is very bad and it's not because he dislikes the game. It's his reasonings are probably some of the weakest, and I feel like there's a lot of issues I have with this video, and I realize this a lot with YouTubers when they tend to step outside of their comfort zone. Like Shad is, yeah, he's played video games, but his content I feel like is better when he like analyzes the video games, like for the historical piece of it, not necessarily for the gameplay or review stuff. I personally, his channel is mainly focused on medieval history and the different weapons and stuff like that. So this seems just very, I get he wanted to try something different here, but I just feel like it wasn't a very well-made video, and I wanted to react to it just to kind of bring up my points. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for him, but I think the way he looks at Soul Calibur 6, I think is very disingenuous to the game, and like I said, just a lot of bad points he brings up. So I wanted to break it down. I don't think I've seen any reaction videos, but if you look on the video, it's very negative. So I'm not really like completely original in my thoughts, but man, this is a rough one. But let's begin.
Welcome back to Game Nights. I am Sir Shadrick of Versity, and I want to talk about what I feel is one of the best examples of the problem that we are seeing with games in the modern day. What am I talking about? I'm talking about disingenuous, low-quality, low-effort cash grabs that are just there. They throw, the idea of the consumer, the loyal fan, out the window because they just want to almost exploit them to get money, essentially. And unfortunately, the one of the best examples of this annoying thing is Soul Calibur 6.
So I do agree with him that there are a lot of soulless cash grabs out there, games with a ton of microtransactions. I think Soul Calibur 6, man, if you think this is like a ripoff for games, if because of the DLC, whatever, I gotta be honest, I think at that point you've basically said every single game is a cash grab. You kind of are selling games to make money, right? Like, in just a general statement, let's just state that so we have a baseline, okay? Second of all, so you're saying any game with DLC basically will be considered a cash grab because one of the points that he'll argue later on is that they have some characters at DLC, but we'll argue that when we get there, because there's a lot that he just really doesn't know about this game, and I think he just ignores it just to get his point across that this game is a cash grab, which I disagree with it, and he doesn't do a very good job of explaining why.
Now, I've been a fan of the Soul Calibur franchise for ages. I remember when I first saw it, okay?
So I don't believe this story that he meant that he's going to go into is false in any way. There's no way for me to state that it is. But I gotta be honest with you, I am so genuinely sick and tired of everyone saying that they're a fan of something or a lifetime fan of something. When I review games, I say if I have any experience with the franchise, and sometimes it's interesting to see someone's experience that does perspective that doesn't have as much experience. Maybe though some of the faults or whatever won't bother them as much as others. But man, I am so sick of everyone saying they're a fan. That I'm going to challenge him on.
Previous to that, the fighting games are always just people fighting. And I remember I was at my local bowling alley and they had a small arcade there. And I walked into it and I saw this fighting game. And instead of fighting with fists, they were fighting with swords. Now, if you know anything about me, that's the type of thing that grabs my interest. This was like amazing, a fighting game with swords. I was like, why hasn't anyone done this before then? About time. And so since then, I basically loved the Soul Calibur franchise. And in fact, that first game actually wasn't a Soul Calibur, it was Soul Edge, one of the really old ones. Now, there have been better and worse iterations in the Soul Calibur series, and you'd like to think, you'd hope, that each new one brings new stuff to the actual game. And usually, the Soul Calibur series did. The sequel would bring in a new character. And it's like, oh, you got a new character, new weapon set, and everything like that. And there might be a new single-player story to enjoy. And then they add additional features. Eventually, they added in character creation so you could make your own character. Like that was so awesome. And each new sequel, not only did you get the character that was added in the last one, so it kept the content it gave you in the last installment of the series, then it would give you more. They were always adding something to it.
This statement is just a false statement, because this makes me think he didn't, he probably stopped playing at 3 and probably didn't play 4 or 5. And the reason why is because 5 was a noticeable downgrade in a lot of things. A lot of missing characters there was a lot of missing characters in 5, which is one thing I didn't like. And one thing which he never touches upon is the combat engine itself. 5 had a very stripped down engine, and each character only had like a few moves to make. And it was another reason why I just couldn't play Soul Calibur 5 for that long, because 4 had so many moves. Despite 4's issues, 5 had so little moves to play with, and it would just get honestly very boring, and every character felt very one note. Like if you wanted to master a character, you could do that very quickly, and really there wasn't a lot to explore. So there was that, and like I said, missing characters, and the character creation definitely took a step back. So Soul Calibur 5 was a legit step back in a lot of ways. And a lot of the characters didn't return. They were mentioned like Taki and whatever, but nowhere to be found.
Until recently. And this is where we come to Soul Calibur 6. Now, Soul Calibur 6, the gameplay's fun. And the character creation in it is probably... It's almost a direct copy of the previous one. And the previous one was great.
Yeah, no, he's right. It's a direct copy. If you don't include all the freaking additional races that you can do, more voices to play around with, more content in general, and the armor actually freaking fits. One of my biggest issues with the Soul Calibur 5 armor set was that a lot of it didn't fit. Also, one thing that he neglects to mention in this video is this game, Soul Calibur 6, was built on a completely new engine. Because the previous games had their own engine to use, but this uses the Unreal Engine 4. So everything was basically built from scratch, which when you know that, it's actually pretty impressive what graphical quality they were able to get in, what they were able to recreate for this. So I understand it may feel like, oh, they're just reusing assets, but technically they're creating everything from the ground up, at least from my understanding of having the new engine and everything.
So you can't really praise the character creation too much, but the character creation in Soul Calibur 5 was great off the bat, and so, of course, Soul Calibur 6 character creation would be great as well, you would assume. But then there's everything else, and this is where we come to the big problem. For the first time in the series, not only did they not give you all the things that they had given before, all the characters and things like that, they actively withheld content in the release of Soul Calibur 6 and made you pay for the stuff that you got for free in the previous installments.
Again, wrong statement. Soul Calibur 5 was missing a ton of characters that were in Soul Calibur 4 in previous games. Also, the DLC requirement thing. There was DLC in the last 2 games, and in 4, depending on the console you had to pay DLC to get the other guest characters. So if you had the 360, you had Yoda. So if you wanted Darth Vader, you had to pay for that. So let's not act like Soul Calibur 6 is exclusive to this issue.
As DLC. Like, think about that. They purposefully made a version of the game of lower quality. They withheld content and then made you pay for it. And these are things that came standard in the game in previous versions.
Again, stated once again, it is a new engine, so everything had to be recreated from the ground up. And one thing that he doesn't realize is a lot of the characters that were brought back, and even some of the new characters, were given very expanded move sets. So yeah, and by the end, anyways, when it came to DLC, everyone is basically back. At least that was demanded. I mean, it would have been awesome to get a season 3, but who's really missing at this point? Rock?
unbelievably lazy.
Once again, Shad's lack of knowledge of the development of the game continues to precede this video. Laziness, that's really the last thing I would say about this game. Maybe under budget, I would say, because definitely, like, you know, stages and stuff like that at launch especially, it definitely did feel like there could have been more done. But once again, you look at the budget, it's like, I think this is more of a Bandai Namco issue, where they should have given more money to the developers, to Project Soul, to really flesh out the game. I wouldn't attack the developers directly in this one and call them lazy. I think that's disingenuous to the hard work that they put in this game.
And cheap. And that's why I say this is a just despicable, soulless, you know, no pun intended there, cash grab to just cash in on the series. We got this series, people like it, they like fighting, and even heaps of the assets in Soul Calibur 6 are directly copied over from Soul Calibur 5. It's like the only effort they did was they added Geralt, you know, the new character you can play.
They also brought back Taki, as well as a lot of classic characters that were missing from Soul Calibur 5, and added 2 new characters, Grow and Aswell, as well as a boatload of other stuff. Again, you're being very disingenuous.
And again, new character is fun, but then there are staple characters. In some instances, they were introduced as new characters, but then they became staple characters, like Hilda, like Amy, Tira, Cassandra, Huang, Setsuka. These are characters that were just part of the series previous, not in every iteration, but they became, and you actually have to pay for them now.
So just to go back, I do somewhat agree that it does ultimately suck when you play a game and you have to pay for characters. Unfortunately, this is not something that's exclusive to Soul Calibur. A lot of fighting games unfortunately do this, so I do see his point in that way. But with his logic, Soul Calibur has been sucking since 4, because Huang hasn't been in the game since 3, and even in that game, he was like a bonus character. It wasn't like an actual character. And Setsuka was missing in the last game, so again, everything has been sucking. Soul Calibur 5 didn't even have the character at all. It had the style, but not the character. Cassandra, another one, was not in 5. So a lot of these criticisms, I feel like you could apply to 5 and have a much stronger case then.
And this is just one glaring point of reference about how lazy they were in Soul Calibur 6. But there's more, okay? If you have a look at the single-player story mode campaign, it is the most lazy, cheap piece of junk, boring as anything, okay? I mean, one of the best single-player missions that they had in the Soul Calibur series, Chronicles of the Sword in Soul Calibur 3, had this awesome kind of open-world map where you had your character moving around, and you could choose where you're going to, and there were random encounters, and then story events and things like that. And it was actually a really interesting, really fun, engaging story mode. In this one, it is such low-effort garbage where they couldn't even be bothered with voice recording or anything like that. It's just written text that appears, and they don't bother with animations or any beginning story. It's just a 2D picture of a character that appears with text, and it's always the same picture. That's how insanely low effort it is, and the story is just some generic boring garbage where, oh, you're going to this thing, you're after this thing, you run to someone, they fight, you run to someone, they fight, you run to someone, they fight. And it's amazing how low effort it is, and especially when you compare it to what Soul Calibur 3 had, it's night and day.
This is when I start to really, well, actually, I've already been questioning his knowledge for a while, but this kind of tells me he's missed 4 and 5, because this mode, Chronicles of the Sword, was fun as hell. I really wish they brought it back. However, it's never been talked about or ever thought about. But this was missing in 4 and 5. So again, Soul Calibur has been sucking since 4, according to his logic. So I do wish they do bring it back. But he's very disingenuous once again when it comes to his story mode. Yes, that's the arcade story mode, or the regular story for each character that you can participate in and whatnot, which is a series of battles, some talking, whatever. There is voice acting, so I have no clue what he's talking about when it comes to that. But there's also a completely other separate story mode where it's like you create your own character, find weapons, get items, people that can, mercenaries that you can use to fight battles for you. But he doesn't mention that at all, so I'll mention that now. And that's a whole created character, so there's a story mode for that. Off the top of my head, I think it's Libra of Souls. Another thing too, I really enjoy Soul Calibur 3. I put it pretty at a decent spot on my tier list. But I will also say that Soul Calibur 3 had some serious issues. It has the balance issues between the created styles and regular characters. Like overall balance was pretty bad. The AI was ridiculously OP, and also there was an issue that I experienced where if you copy something from the memory card, you won't be able to save anything on that memory card anymore. So that was a fun experience.
So we have reused assets, we have content that you usually got in a normal Soul Calibur release that was actively withheld to make you pay for it further on, and then you have incredibly low effort 2D, just simple text story mode things that there's barely any content there to enjoy. The only way you can get long-term enjoyment or any play out of Soul Calibur is by fighting people, perhaps online or, you know, just with your mates and stuff like that. But for single player, it's got nothing, or what I feel amounts to nothing because of how dull and boring it is. And seriously, compare this to other fighting games where you look at, say, Injustice, which has kind of animated cutscenes and an ongoing story in the fighting and things like that, compared to the low-tier garbage you get in Soul Calibur 6. It's unbelievable. And so I don't know what's happened with the developers. They just lost the plot. They want to, you know, because the sad thing is I think they are making bank on it. And that's the worst part about this. I bought Soul Calibur 6 because I was a fan of the franchise and everything like that. And you buy the season pass because, okay, because sometimes what if the DLC was actually adding content on top, like the original formula where the new game came out and you got everything you got in the previous installment, and then there was new kind of content. And that's when they might be able to justify paying for brand new characters and special novelty characters like 2B, like, well, Grok kind of came with a release, I think, but then you have that guy. All right. So yeah, totally. I reckon you could justify paid DLC for something that's actually adding to the series that wasn't there before. But seriously, holding back content that you already had in previous games, repurposing assets and making people pay for it. Like, seriously, there are like character creation assets that are just completely lifted out of the previous game, and they're making you pay for it in this installment.
Again, his reuse asset is really annoying because, again, everything had to be created from scratch. Aesthetically, yes, but everything had to be created from scratch. Every animation, every movement, whatnot. Yeah, maybe some things could have transferred over, but trust me, when you have a new engine, it's basically starting over. So again, I'm so sick of when he keeps saying reusing assets. If I had to stop every time he said it, this video would be like 30-40 minutes long. So yeah, we're not going to go there. Actually, it may end up being 30 minutes anyways. But regarding the other thing he said regarding content, I can somewhat agree with it. I think it would have been cool if we had a lot more single player content. I do agree. Unfortunately, fighting games nowadays outside of NetherRealm Studios tend to really not focus too much on the single player, which is a shame. They tend to be mostly online affairs, which is just the general state of things. But I would say this game has way more single player content than Soul Calibur 5, even excluding the freaking character creation mode.
It is so disingenuous, it is so lazy, so low effort, such a blatant cash grab that, I do not recommend it. And by the way, even though I've bought Soul Calibur 6, you know, it took me a couple of hours to get just insanely bored with it. And the only type of additional enjoyment I get is the character creation, because you can do some pretty fun things with character creation. Like, and again, this is just a copy of the previous character creation, by the way, but the idea that you can add in textures and images, maps, and stuff on top of the things to give them a different look. Like, do you see the guy I made here? Does he look somewhat similar to me? And I was able to get the brigandine, look by adding a polka dot texture and then changing the colors and stuff. So the character creation is fun. But the problem is, after you make this really awesome character, you want to do something with it. You want to enjoy, engaging with him on a long kind of story, and you want to see this character interact with other characters and have possible different outcomes and stuff. That's why a really engaging kind of story mode, like they had in Soul Calibur 3, is actually a huge benefit to a fighting game. And it seems like the only thing that they're really trying to sell Soul Calibur 6 on, or the long-term play, is the multiplayer aspect. But no, a single-player campaign is really important too, because it helps you keep, for people who don't enjoy multiplayer as much, okay, it keeps you, I'm not going to be buying Soul Calibur 7. Soul Calibur 6 is absolute garbage. I would need, a massive recommendation to show that I haven't done all this stupid stuff from someone I trust to even have a look at Soul Calibur 7 if they ever make one. The thing that keeps me sticking around is having some actual meaty gameplay I can enjoy, especially with these awesome awesome characters that I can make and then interject them in the story and things like that. And Soul Calibur 6 has nothing like that.
So this is when I go from I don't think you've played many of the games previously to I don't think you've even played this game at all, or at least not for a very enough time to really say, oh, this is what I've done. I assume he probably just created his character, played for like 5 or 10 seconds, and then just said, there's nothing here, and just called it a day. Because I'd be the first to tell you, like, again, I already mentioned this, Libra of Souls. If you want to do a character, create a character, Libra of Souls, and you can go through the whole adventure. I literally completed that, and I'm on a second character now, going through the dark path instead of like the light path. So you get to interact with the squad and all that stuff. You get to interact with a lot of the characters from Soul Calibur. So once again, he is wrong. And again, it's not even a matter of whether or not you like the game or not. The problem I have is you're just being very disingenuous and really just discarding features and just not mentioning things that are in the game, saying it's not here when it clearly is there. So you're baseless now. It's like, okay, now you're just making stuff up and just pulling stuff out of your ass.
At all, and so literally sometimes I just hop on there to make a character, and then I got nothing to. It's a soulless kind of endeavor, but I love character creation so much, and it's got such a detailed run. But then I got nothing to do. It's so yes, Soul Calibur 6 is a soulless version that does not nearly have the caliber that previous iterations had. But I'm not the only one who's been disappointed with this amongst the game nights. In fact, Sir Ben has some things to share as well on how despicable and garbage tier the treatment of Soul Calibur 6 has been.
All right, guys. So I've been pretty harsh on Shad. I don't know who the hell this guy is, but all I gotta say is this is about to get really bad really quick. He has like one criticism and it's terrible. And also he also is gonna say, oh, I've been a fan of the series, when clearly he's missed 3, 4, and 5.
Hey everyone, Sir Ben here. I've also been a fan of the Soul Calibur series for a very long time. It's actually why I invested money in Soul Calibur 6. I heard that it was going to be a reiteration of Soul Caliburs 1 and 2, which is where I was introduced to the game. All my favourite characters are from those games, and so I was jumping straight back into a blast from the past. I was ecstatic. And then I bought the game, I opened the game, I started playing the game, and I realised there was something missing. Necrid.
All right, every time I hit the record button, I have to sigh because of all these just terrible criticism. This is by far the freaking worst. And honestly, this shows just, this is why I can't stand when people say I've been a fan of the series. He's clearly only played 2 because Necrid was not in 3, 4, or 5. And I'll tell you why he's not. Because Talim, if you've read up and actually read the story, Talim purified him in after Soul Calibur 2, so he technically doesn't exist anymore. Honestly, while we're on the subject, we might as well get mad that Al Ghul is nowhere to be found. But anyways, also, if you look at the real reason, Todd McFarlane has the rights to the character. Therefore, Namco does not own the rights to the, or Bandai Namco does not own the rights to the character, so they would have to go through him in order to use the character. He wasn't very popular at the time. The reception he got was very low. They just felt like he really didn't have anything unique and was just stealing everyone move. So that's why, he's really never been brought back, and he wasn't that popular of a character. So sorry, a very not popular and obscure character that Namco or Bandai Namco doesn't even own is not in a game. If that is really one reason to make you not play a game, wow.
My absolute most favourite character. I mean, look at the guy. He is beautiful. I mean, the spikes on his arm and the glowy thing on his chest, and just he looks menacing and horrible and just amazing. And the way he played was just incredible. I absolutely loved being able to be this hulking mass of a thing, which, I mean, I wasn't then, but I am now. And I could just pull weapons out of thin air, and they took that. I mean, yes, sure, okay, they have the main antagonist in the game, I can't remember his name for the life of me, who can, make weapons appear and do all those sorts of things. But Necrid could too, and he did it so much better. I was so looking forward to having him back in the game, and I was so looking forward to just reliving my childhood by using him to just tear others to shreds. And I can't.
Okay, well, pick another character. Maybe try out Aswell, the character you forgot the name of. Or you can just, again, try another character, see what you like. You never know. I mean, heck, I even put 40 hours in Soul Calibur 5, even though Taki wasn't there, I played as Natsu, made my own character, and also, still played as Nightmare. So I still tried the other characters as well as Ivy and whatever. And also, this is just a bad criticism because in Tekken 2, Jun Kazama was my favorite character, and once Tekken 3 came around, you really didn't have a Kazama style character. Same with 4, but then 5 they introduced Asuka Kazama. But I wasn't gonna be like, oh, there's no Jun Kazama, I'm not gonna play 3 now, because in 3 I was playing as Eddie and other characters as well. So keep an open mind, fam.
I've got something I'd like to say.
Hi, I'm Oz, and when I heard about this, yeah, I was really, really upset and angry too. I haven't played any of the games. I'm just really upset and angry.
All right, this is clearly a joke. I'm not gonna get mad at this, but it is just such a random joke. But I'm gonna take this time to talk about something that's really been bothering me watching this. Is, there's all this talk about the paid stuff, the paid DLC and all that stuff, but we're not talking about the free update that they did to expand everyone's moveset. I mean, the game had some pretty deep movesets to begin with, but they also went back and expanded some movesets. I mean, heck, they even made Taki cooler than they already were. Besides giving her that magical Hadouken thing, which I love, they also gave her a couple of really thecool moves for quick attack and recovery. So it's pretty awesome what they did there, and some free stages as well. So I mean, there's some paid stuff, I will agree, but there's also been free stuff as well. So you can't just say, oh, it's all been bad and not accept the good. Again, you have a narrative, you're pushing an agenda, you're pushing a narrative, and it's honestly weak, and you've been disingenuous this whole time.
So clearly, the disappointment and low quality of Soul Calibur 6 is having a true detrimental effect on not only its fan base, but people outside of the fan base. It is a travesty, an abomination in the series. Don't buy it. It's absolute garbage, and I'm going to downvote it. Hey, I've never done a Steam review. I can do a Steam review downvote. That's what they're meant for. Got it.
So for closing thoughts, I'm just going to say that even your favorite YouTuber can get things wrong. And honestly, that's okay. I've been wrong too in the past. And, this is just the time where Shad is wrong here in many occasions. I think what gets me really worked up about this video in particular is because, as somebody who seems to do a lot of research and tries to be as ingenuous, or I don't know the term, but basically tries to be as honest as possible in his videos, this comes off as very disingenuous and honestly very out of character for Shad. I know sometimes he can be a little bit egotistical and get a little bit full of himself, and I have an ego too, so this is not an attack on him, but this is just blatant to make himself think that he knows so much and has a really good basis when there's so many holes in his theory. Again, whether or not you like Soul Calibur 6 is whatever. If you don't like it, that's fine, but at least be honest in why you don't like it in the criticisms. And it just seemed like he just went full negative on this review without showing, hey, there are some positives. I mean, come on, there's good things in every game. Even the worst game could have at least one good thing. Maybe it's so bad it's good quality to it or what have you. But it's just a lot of disingenuous and just blatant lies, especially the whole saying that there's no story mode to play as your own character, which is wrong. The Necro thing was just really bad. They should have done their research on that. The reuse assets, again, is a frustrating thing. And I think he praises Soul Calibur 3 a little bit too much, because the one thing that he doesn't mention is Soul Calibur 3 didn't have online play, which is why they put so much content in the single player, because there just wasn't a multiplayer component. I forgot the reason why they couldn't do it, some issue, but yeah, it was just completely single player, which was crazy for the time. If they waited a little bit, they could have possibly ported it to the 360 and got the online, but that's a discussion for another day. Either way, I still have a lot of respect for Shad. This isn't gonna change my opinion on him. Especially I like his Shadlands channel that he's got going on now. It's very wholesome. I watched the video when they restored Boromir, and it actually was a pretty good project. So again, I recommend his channel. I just don't recommend this video entirely. And also, don't attack the man. It is what it is at this point. But I wish he just did a better job in reviewing this game. Either ways, I hope you like this reaction video. I know I don't really do reaction videos, but let me know if you guys want more of stuff like this, and I'll be willing to do that. As always, thank you for watching, and this is Powerhouse signing off.